Hello, everyone, and welcome back to TowerGate. It is TowerGate day number 639. 639, Wednesday, December 19th, 2018. Thank you so much for tuning in. Of course, you know what happens on Wednesday. I take out the trash. I used to have chicken. Now I'm having pasta. I'm having pasta and taking out the trash. Happy Wednesday. Let's get to it. A lot to cover. Well, it appears that Martha McSally has been appointed by the governor of Arizona, Doug Ducey, to fill the seat of the late Senator Magoo. Senator Magoo's seat going to Martha McSally. Now, some of you are probably cheering. I'm not. Why? Because during the primaries, and even prior to that, Martha McSally was an anti-Trumper. An anti-Trumper. Trump was forced to go to Arizona and campaign for her because he much would have rather kept that seat as a Republican seat than see it go to a Democrat. Like the other crazy woman who eventually did win, beating Martha McSally. And why did Martha McSally lose? Well, she lost because a lot of the Republicans who actually live in Arizona and who know McSally know and remember that she was an anti-Trumper, and they just couldn't bring themselves to go out and vote for her. That's what I think. So now we have Martha McSally, and you can expect that when the impeachment vote to impeach Trump has worked its way through the House and made its way into the Senate, I would say that it's about a 50-50 shot whether or not Martha McSally votes with the Democrats to impeach. Now, I know that Madam Botox, Nancy Pelosi, has said that she doesn't really support that and that she's not going to be pushing for impeachment. But there's too many Democrats in the House who ran on impeaching Trump. They have no choice but to bring it to a floor vote. Many of them campaigned on it. Many of them campaigned on it. And you probably would have been hard-pressed to find any Democrat running in the midterms who, if asked about impeaching Trump, would have said, no, I don't think it's a good idea. Pelosi was one of the very few. But you're going to have Maxine Waters, Mad Max, and various others pushing for it. Maybe Pelosi can put down the measure, but I don't know. I mean, she will be the speaker. She can certainly control what comes to the House, comes to the floor, but she's going to be under tremendous pressure. Tremendous pressure. And a lot of Democrats will be telling her, hey, we can't go back on this promise. If we do, we'll lose in 2020. Our electorate put us in here to impeach Trump. And if you don't let it come to a vote, our voters are not going to come out and support us in 2020. So Pelosi is going to be facing a very difficult situation here with so many of her members wanting to push the impeachment vote and so many of them telling her exactly how it's going to blow back on them in 2020. Now, she could care less because she's in a safe seat. She will die in that seat most likely. So it'll be very interesting to watch and see how Pelosi manages that situation. But I'd say it's at least 50-50, if not better, that they are going to succeed in getting that impeachment vote through the House. It'll make it to the Senate where it will not pass, in my opinion, based on what we know now. But Uncle Bob isn't done. And he isn't going to be done. He's never going to be done until Trump is either dead, impeached, or resigns, or is some way out of office. That's when Uncle Bob will stop. We'll keep watching. Well, I'm about a third of the way through the Comey hearings, the second Comey hearings. I just finished the first ones. It's more frustrating than the first set of hearings. You know, there's a common theme that's all through both of these Comey hearings, and that is, you can see, remember, a lot of these guys are prosecutors, and you had, Goodlatte and Goodlatte and Gowdy and Meadows and Ratcliffe and Jordan is your main Republican interviewers, or, guys asking the questions to Comey. And they all follow a pretty similar pattern, especially Ratcliffe and Gowdy, because they're trained prosecutors, where they start with questions, and they're eventually working their way to set Comey up to get him to a certain question. So you see this happening all through the first interview. You see it happening all through the second interview to the part where I am now. And you see the same thing happen every time. They get all the setup questions in, and then when they get to the question where Comey has to answer it, and it would, of course, force him to either lie or incriminate himself, he'll either say, I can't answer that, I don't remember, or I don't know. When they get to the question that they've worked themselves up to, boom, Comey says, I can't answer that. And you see it all through these Q&As with Comey, from the first time that they got together 10 days ago until yesterday. So this is the tactic that he employs. And let me just go through a few things here I made notes of. Goodlatte actually starts the hearing by telling Comey that he is under oath. Comey replies by saying that he is not under oath, but he is obligated to tell the truth. That's how the hearing starts. Goodlatte giving him the opening, monologue there, saying, okay, and by the way, you know that you are under oath, blah, 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 blah. Comey comes back and says, no, I am not under oath. I am only obligated to tell the truth. Two different things, being under oath and being obligated. The Rotten Reverend Clinton was never under oath either. The Rotten Reverend Clinton was also not only not under oath, she was allowed to have her witnesses in the room with her, who are also her attorneys. She was never asked, not a single question about the her husband and Loretta Lynch meeting on the tarmac just 2 days before. She was never asked if she shared communications with Barack Obama on her private server. Many things that she was not asked, purposefully. So Comey, like I said, on the Republicans were Gowdy, Ratcliffe, Meadows, Jordan, and Goodlatte, and 4 Democrats. Comey mostly answered again. They get into the small talk conversation when they get on a topic. They work through the topic, then when they get to the question, which is the question, which would force Comey to either tell the truth, which would actually get to the bottom of what the series of previous questions were all about. At that point, Comey will say, I don't know, I can't remember, or I can't answer that. He dodged every question. Every question was a dodge. Every time Comey gets caught, at that point where he knows he's caught, he dodges. Perfect example. They're talking at one point, I think it was Ratcliffe is questioning Comey, and he's asking Comey, he's like, okay, so you were aware that the Rotten Reverend Clinton had the private server. Correct. You were aware that she was communicating with Barack Obama, who was using a pseudonym to communicate with the Rotten Reverend Clinton on that server. Correct. Comey says, yeah, we did determine that there were conversations going on between Hillary Clinton and the president that were going through her email on her private server. He admits to that. He even admits that there was at least one time when the Rotten Reverend Clinton was in Russia. And she communicated something to Barack Obama through her private server. So they get through these series of questions, and then Ratcliffe says, okay, and did you determine if any or how many of those conversations would have involved classified information? The times that Barack and Hillary were communicating on the private server. How many times was there classified information? And Comey says, I can't remember. He can't remember. And that's literally a example of exactly how the entire interview goes with Comey. Every time you get him on the gotcha question, all of a sudden he either gets amnesia, or he said, I can't comment on that, I can't remember, or I don't know. 3 pat answers he's got every time they get him on the hook question. That is frustrating. That's why I say I can only read for like about 45 minutes. I couldn't take anymore. Because I know that the rest of the thing I'm going to read, I'm going to spend another hour and a half reading this, knowing good and well that you're never really going to get the answer to anything. Because anytime a real important question, everything else we know, they're just going through things we already know. Then they get to the question, and Comey drops, the I don't know, I can't remember, or I'm not going to comment on that. Unbelievable. He contradicted John Brennan. In one portion, Jim Jordan is asking him questions about the dossier, and Comey says that the dossier material was in the ICA, the Intelligence Community Assessment, and he also says that Clapper was the one who told him to... Wait a minute, before I get there, let me comment on this first thing. So, he contradicts Brennan when he says that the dossier material was in the ICA, the Intelligence Community Assessment. If you remember, when John Brennan was being questioned, he said that the dossier was not part of the ICA. But here we have Comey saying it was. Now here's how they're going to wiggle off the hook on this one. And you notice this with both Brennan and Comey. Dossier, the word. If you use the word dossier with Comey, and especially Brennan, they will go blank almost. And say, well, dossier, well, yeah, after they wrote BuzzFeed released it, and Isikoff wrote the article, and we heard the word dossier, that's when they acknowledge the dossier. Anything prior to that, they do not acknowledge the dossier as being the dossier. Despite the fact that what they're actually talking about is the information that was in the dossier. So this is how Brennan and Comey spin that. It's all the stuff that was in the dossier, they just don't describe it as being information from the dossier. It was intelligence. Then you have Comey saying that Clapper was the one who told him to only brief Trump on the PP-Gate story at the Trump Tower briefing. And he says that basically they had a meeting and talked about what they were going to tell Trump in the Trump Tower meeting about briefing him on the dossier, which we know was used as the hook story for CNN to run the story that Comey briefed Trump on the PP-Gate story, which gave BuzzFeed, in their opinion, the right to publish it, which they're now being sued for by multiple people. So here he's kind of putting it off on Clapper, which is very interesting because just 2 days ago we learned that Clapper had this secret meeting where he was actually with a couple other people. We don't know everyone that was in the meeting, but we know the senior intelligence official who was in the meeting, who's the source of the story, said that yes, they were talking about going to a female Supreme Court justice to get her to sign an injunction to keep Trump from being able to be sworn in on Inauguration Day. That Clapper is a real worm. Much more involved in the coup plot than a lot of people think or know. And I hope someday we get the information to prove that. It's just obvious. He's just very good at laying back in the shadows. A lot like Brennan. It's like Comey, Brennan, and Clapper kind of laid back in the shadows and let Peter's been stroking us and Loose Lisa Page and McCabe do all the dirty work, while they laid back and orchestrated things along with the person who was actually running the operation, which would have been the rotten Reverend Clinton, as we learned yesterday. So I'll attempt to force myself to read through the rest of that, but it's painful, I got to tell you, because you just know, I've read through enough of these Comey hearings that, you're not going to get the answer to any of the questions. Now, we already know the truth. Comey cannot tell the truth. He incriminates himself if he does. This is why he should be in front of a grand jury. My God, he's lied to Congress multiple times. Lied in the media multiple times. It was part of the coup. He signed off on the FISA warrant, completely bypassing the Woods agreement, which the Woods thing is a procedure set up by Uncle Bob the executioner, Bob Mueller, to make sure that when you get a FISA court that they absolutely guarantee that the evidence they're using to get to FISA is checked out. So they're supposed to go through this Woods procedure. It's mandated. How did the dossier, which was used to get the FISA warrants, how did it make it through the Woods procedure? And Comey signed off on it, as did other people. Yates, Rodenstein, the whole 9 yards. How did they go through the Woods procedure, which has to verify the information and it has to provide the documents? We never hear about it. It's never brought up by anybody on either side. I think I once heard Ratcliffe talk to Maria Bartiromo about it, but it really doesn't get enough attention. It's just maddening. It is very, very hard. It is very, very hard to sit and read through that stuff. So let's go to the Flynn situation. Judge Sullivan has delayed the sentencing for 90 days because Flynn is still cooperating with the special counsel. He's cooperating, of course, on the issues with Turkey. So Flynn, it appears, took the guilty plea of lying to investigators, even though he didn't, to avoid Mueller charging him over lobbying for Turkey without being registered as a foreign agent. And why do we know that? Because the prosecutor sat there and told the judge, oh yeah, we told Flynn, if you don't cooperate and agree to lying to us, we're going to prosecute you for acting as an unregistered foreign agent. And that's a lot worse than lying to the FBI. And that goes into other places. We can get 3 or 4 charges out of that. So that's basically what the prosecutor told the judge. Told the judge, yeah, we said either plead guilty to something you didn't do, or we are going to hit you with violating the FARA, Foreign Registration Act. So the judge knew that Flynn was taking the guilty plea to avoid larger issues. That was worked out right there in court. Sullivan sat there and listened to Flynn's attorneys, listened to Uncle Bob's folks, and it was right there in front of his face. Yeah. Plead guilty to this, to lying to the FBI, or we hit you with the FARA violation. Judge Sullivan, then he says, quote, I cannot recall any incident in which the court has accepted a guilty plea from someone who maintains he was not guilty. And then, of course, that's what led to this interaction between the 2 attorneys and the judge. Because here we have the judge saying, hey, generally people don't come in here and plead guilty to something they're not guilty of. Why is that happening? And, of course, that's what both Flynn's attorney and the special counsel attorneys, that's what they said, told the judge. Well, it's because we told him if he didn't plead guilty to lying to the FBI, we're going to hit him on the FARA violations, Foreign Registrations Act. Judge, okay, it's good enough for me. Hell yeah, works. Then we get this weird part in the hearing where the judge goes off on Flynn and suggests that he sold out his country. Really? Seems to me there's someone else selling out their country, Judge Sullivan. Of course, then he was forced to come back later and apologize and say that he misspoke. He forgot that Flynn wasn't in the Trump administration when he was doing the lobbying for Turkey. So here the judge goes off on Flynn for selling out his country, meaning you were working as a foreign agent while in the Trump administration, when in fact that was not the case. Then the judge realizes that and corrects himself. That's crazy. I mean, that's a pretty big mistake to make. We have to assume at this point what he didn't know at the time, and after he took a recess, and after the recess someone tapped him on the shoulder and said, oh, by the way, that ass chewing you just gave Flynn for being a foreign agent, he wasn't actually working at the time that he was in the Trump administration. He wasn't doing that lobbying. That was before. How does a judge get something like that wrong? And what happened immediately after he said that to Flynn and said that that you sold out your country? Well, immediately every reporter in the place from the liberal media outlets picked up their cell phones or their text, texted it back, and within minutes, CNN, MSNBC, the New York Times, the Washington Post, every paper in the freaking world is now headlines. Michael Flynn sold out his country. Well done, Judge Sullivan. You're a real star. Thanks for nothing. We also learned that Flynn does not have immunity. No, only people who get immunity is people who commit real crimes for the rotten Reverend Clinton. Remember Mr. Pagliano? Cheryl Mills? Huma Abedin? And how about foreign agents? John Kerry over in Iran telling them to wait out the president, advising the Iranians to do something completely opposite of what the administration is trying to do in foreign policy. He's not registered as a foreign agent. Iran's a hostile power. And what happens to John Kerry? Nothing. Nothing, folks. Nothing, honey. So Flynn does not have immunity. And that is why Sullivan, I assume, delayed the hearing for 90 days. Maybe he's throwing Flynn a bone, hoping that the Turkish lobbying case, the two guys charged on that, and apparently there's more people who are going to be charged on that, is something also came out of this hearing today, that the judge is hoping that Turkish lobbying case is going to be finished within the next 90 days. When Flynn comes back, it'll be like March 19th or something, so that Flynn cannot be caught up in the criminal liability associated with that case. So, in other words, what they're saying is, and I don't know if it was the prosecution asking the judge or if the attorneys had agreed onto it before that or whatever, or they agreed on it with the judge before that, but Flynn is going to keep working for Uncle Bob to keep helping him catch people who were engaged in this lobbying activity with Turkey. Now, the Podestas are fine. There'll be no problem with the Podestas. The Clintons are fine. All the other thousands of lobbyists who are not registered as foreign agents are all fine. It's only if you're connected to Trump. Only people connected to Trump will be found guilty of these violations. So the witch hunt, we know right now, because the judge is saying until March 19th. That means that Uncle Bob is going to be prosecuting people in March of 2019. Does it sound like to you that the Mueller investigation is coming to an end? Remember a few weeks ago when they said, if Trump just answers these written questions, that'll pretty much be it. Then after the midterms, Uncle Bob will wrap it up, and this thing should be wrapped up by the first of the year. Do you remember what I said the next day? Bullshit. Bullshit. You're going to wrap up anything. It's only going to lead to Uncle Bob wanting to ask Trump more questions, and this time in person. And if he doesn't, he's got something to hide. And if Uncle Bob has got two guys already scheduled for hearings in this Turkish lobbying thing, and he's already, remember, Uncle Bob has also passed off investigations to the Southern District of New York on Trump's business affairs and his kids and anyone associated with him. This stuff ain't going away. Trump's going to be under investigation by the special counsel, the Southern District of New York, and everybody else until he is dead, had to resign, been impeached and forced out of office, or completely destroyed. That's the plan. That's the plan I am absolutely sure of. So, I know a lot of you are pretty upset about this, but what can you do? It's the deep state. Yeah, I mean, theoretically, we're all thinking, okay, well, this is a good judge, a Reagan appointee. He's going to walk in there. He's going to set the record straight. He's going to make sure that that he straightens this thing out. He's going to put Uncle Bob in his place. No, didn't happen. Did the deep state get to the judge? That's a question. Well, an FBI memo now shows that Clapper tried to get McCabe and James E. Wolfe off the hook for their crimes. He wrote letters of support for both McCabe and James E. Wolfe to Christopher No Shit Sherlock Ray. Why is Clapper writing letters on behalf of McCabe and Mr. Wolf. Mr. Wolf leaked the entire FISA, unredacted Carter Page FISA document that we're not allowed to see, that Congress can't even see. He leaked it to five media organizations and his girlfriend, Allie Watkins. They have it. They have the, if Congress wants to see the unredacted version of the 28 pages of the Carter Page FISA warrant, why don't they just call one of the five media organizations or Allie Watkins? They got it. What does that tell us? It tells us a lot about Mr. Clapper. Mr. Crapper. Unwittingly. It's maddening. Well, it appears that Adam Schiff, the bug-eyed fool, wants to drag Michael Flynn in front of the Congress to harass him for a while. It's not good enough that Uncle Bob's ruining his life. Now, bug-eyed fool Adam Schiff says that he's going to be dragging Michael Flynn into the House Intelligence Committee once he takes over here in just a couple weeks. As I said, it is never going to end. These people are not going away. They're not going away. Then, of course, we get the Daily Beast. Of course, you can believe practically none of what they report. But let's go ahead and talk about it anyway. The Daily Beast is saying that Mueller, Uncle Bob the executioner, is preparing more court filings for people in Trump world for for talking to Russians about easing U.S. sanctions. That's right. There's much more to come. Uncle Bob's nowhere near done wrapping it up. He's just getting started. He's just getting started. So Uncle Bob's going to be dropping more court filings for people in Trump world for talking to Russians about easing U.S. sanctions, which I didn't even know was a crime. Of course it is now. Breathing too hard is a crime if you're associated with Trump in any way, shape, or form. So people talking, there's 35,000 sealed indictments, there's 20,000 sealed indictments. Yeah, and they're probably all for Trump and his family and his friends and anyone who support him. Maybe you. You got a MAGA hat? Did you make a contribution? Uh-oh. By the way, Uncle Bob, the executioner, did you ever find out who it was that leaked the phone conversation between Flynn and Kislyak? Did you ever find out who did that major crime, Uncle Bob? The leaked phone call. Flynn and the Russian ambassador. Still haven't heard a peep about that, have we? I'm sure he's working really hard on that. I'm sure we'll get to the bottom of that. Well, we talked yesterday about the fact that Trump is working on a plan to castrate the criminal banking cartel. And of course, we can see now, when we learned that yesterday, it explained why you see the Fed constantly raising rates. The Fed is literally trying to force a recession. They are trying to force a recession on Trump's economy as payback because they know that he's working on this plan to reform the banking situation against their interest. And that's why the Fed chair, Jerome Powell, I think his name is, that's why he continues to raise rates. They're trying to force a recession in the economy. They've even got their mouthpieces out there predicting it. That's the deep state, my friends. You see, Trump wants to take down the corrupt deep state individuals and leave the country intact. The criminal cartel that we're dealing with, they want to destroy the president and destroy the country along with it. That was always their plan from the beginning. Trump is only helping them do what they wanted to do. My goodness. It's a lot worse. One thing I can say, Trump being elected president did expose one thing, and that is that these people are a lot more ruthless than we even thought. A lot more evil than we thought. And a lot more cunning than we even ever imagined. Well, that Trump hater who climbed the Statue of Liberty, that nutcase who climbed the Statue of Liberty to protest Trump, was in court yesterday. She was convicted, found guilty, and she will be serving 18 months, which means she'll serve about 3 days. And who was the lawyer defending her? Avenatti, the creepy porn lawyer. It looks like another loss, another L in the column, the loser column for Michael Avenatti. Does this guy ever win a case? Does he ever win a case? Well, we know that Robin Greitz, thanks to Sarah Carter, has sent a letter to Judge Sullivan to remind Judge Sullivan of how this Flynn thing all started from the very beginning, what the true original motivations were. We talked about this over a year ago here on TowerGate. Okay, so Robin Greitz, I don't have much time, I'll give you the short story. Robin Greitz was a FBI employee. She knew both Flynn and she knew McCabe quite well. She knew that McCabe was involved in some very unscrupulous activities as a supervisor there at the FBI, and she basically ratted him out. And when she ratted him out, Michael Flynn came to her defense. And she believes, and a lot of people believe, that the reason that one of the reasons Michael Flynn was targeted specifically by McCabe was because he came to the defense of Robin Greitz. And so she's sending a letter to the judge to remind him of this fact. And let's not forget that I think it was an email, it could have been a text, but it was either a text or an email from Andy McCabe, the one that said, we F Flynn, then we F Trump. And I don't think he used just F. I think he said we fuck Flynn and then we fuck Trump. I think that's exactly what he said. I wonder if the judge wants to take a look at that particular communication. What more do you need to know? We F Flynn and then we F Trump? That's pretty clear, is it not? The Federal Bureau of Insubordination. Oh well, here you go. The Trump Foundation has now agreed to shut down after the New York Attorney General's office has completed their witch hunt. Of course, the Clinton Foundation will be open for business. Not many people donating anymore, but they're certainly open for business. They will accept donations. So they are, of course, like I say, desperately seeking the donations. No one will give any, but that's okay. The Clinton Foundation is in the clear. They're good to go. But the Trump Foundation, who actually did do a lot of good charity work and donate to a lot of people, they are being shut down. And it's not just going to be an easy shutdown, because what they agreed to was to the type of shutdown they're going to do. They're going to shut down the Trump Foundation, but they're going to do it with the Federal District of New York watching every step of the way, making sure that all the monies go to the right places and the things disbanded in the way they want it to be. And in the process, the Southern District of New York is going to be watching for any issues that may arise, and you can bet they'll find some. It's just another area where they're going to dig and dig and dig. So the Trump Foundation shut down, Clinton Foundation rocking and rolling, my friends. The Senate Intelligence Committee has released their Russian investigation report, and they have found that Russia interfered in the election to help Trump. Russia interfered in the election to help Trump. That's their findings. Now, if I remember correctly, there was a grand total of $6,000 spent on internet ads, and then it was about 100 free Facebook ads that they posted, were able to get posted. So 100 Facebook ads and $6,000. That was the Russian efforts to interfere in the election. And, of course, we know that $6,000, the Right Reverend Clinton spent $1.2 billion, over $40 million alone just on, 1 month. The month of October, I think, the month before the election, $40 million just on internet ads. But yet we have $6,000 spent by a bunch of Russian trolls, about 100 Facebook ads, probably in Russian that no one could read. And there you go. That's the Russian collusion delusion. But that's what's in the Senate Intelligence Committee report. And I'm sure the liberal media will jump all over that and write it till the sun sets. Chris Matthews is saying that Trump will be forced to resign and Trump's kids will go to jail. Trump will be forced to resign, and Trump's kids will go to jail. And of course, we had Michael Isikoff was spotted at the Flynn hearing today. So, it's another day. More of the same. I keep saying it. Somebody better do something quick. Somebody better do something quick. Thanks for tuning in. I'll be back tomorrow with more TowerGate. See you. Bye.